Welcome to the Drunk Astrology Podcast, your cosmic cheat code to building a life you're obsessed with. I'm your host, Graham Breitenstein. I'm a professional astrologer, certified oracle card reader, and the creator of Drunk Astrology. And I'm also a former professional dancer for artists like Lady Gaga, Meghan Trainor, Idina Menzel, Charlie Puth, turned astrologer for names like Lizzo, celebrity trainer Shaun T, and longevity expert Elise Joan. These days, I help everyone from seven-figure business owners to stay-at-home moms actually apply astrology as a strategic tool so they can stop scrambling and start making an impact in their everyday lives. Because here's the truth. The real power of astrology isn't in predicting your future. The real power is giving you the context for the season of life you're in right now and the opportunities available to you inside of it. So if you're ready to manifest big, make your next move with intention, and finally work with the universe instead of against it, you're in the right place. Let's lock the F in. Well, astro lover, in the name of using astrology to create a life that you are absolutely obsessed with, we got to talk about what we're talking about today, because in 2026, the outer planets are making big moves. So that means the zeitgeist is shifting energy and creating new avenues for opportunities. So the most successful people will embrace these shifts. So let me say this to you. The people who thrive in this next era, they're not necessarily going to be the smartest people in the room. They're actually going to be the people who are willing to make a decision and move on it. Today, we're talking about how Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus, three of our really slow-moving outer planets, have all three changed signs. So this episode is dedicated to being your cosmic cheat code to understanding how you and your zodiac sign need to move over these next several years, because we are now in the era of decisive action, fast-paced pivots, identity reinvention, courageous experimentation, moving before you feel fully ready to move. Now, this is a big one. This comes up with a lot of my new one-on-one birth chart reading clients. Feeling the nudge, feeling a hunch, but not moving on it. I'm telling you, the most successful people in this new era are going to feel the hunch. They're going to feel the ping. They're going to see that their intuition is telling them something, and they're not going to question it. They're going to move on it. And it's also the era of learning in real time. Instead of overthinking yourself into paralysis, this is a key thing to remember as we move over the next several years. So what I want you to take away from today's episode is the role that Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus actually play in astrology and, of course, in your unique birth chart, and why the shift into Aries and Gemini changes the collective energy and opportunity dramatically. Why indecision is actually a little dangerous in this era. How to work with these transits instead of getting steamrolled by them, because that is absolutely a possibility if you just play in the land of theoreticals and hypotheticals instead of just taking action. You can absolutely get steamrolled by this energy. And lastly, what these shifts mean personally for you and your sun sign. So stay tuned to the end, because we're going to bring it all home. I'm going to give you what Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus actually mean, what Aries and Gemini, the influence they play and how you can practically apply this information, but then how it actually translates to you and your zodiac sign. So this is a jam-packed episode, and I am so excited to dive right on in. And so that is exactly what we're going to do. So first, let's just talk about some like nitty-gritty astrology, just like the dates, the cycles that you need to be aware of. So I want you to understand how fast, or really like how slow, these planets move. So Neptune takes 14 years to travel in a sign. All right. So Neptune being in Aries happened on January 26th of 2026, and it goes all the way through May 21st, 2038. Now, because of retrogrades, there actually was a little preview of this in 2025. That was like March through October of 2025. And then at the end of his jaunt in Aries, there's a little October 2038 to March 2039. So we've got a long time with Neptune riding in Aries. And then Saturn also moved into Aries in 2026. That was February 13th, and he will be in the first sign of the zodiac through April 12th, 2028. So if you happen to know your chart, and you actually have Saturn in Aries, you are in what is called your Saturn return. Buckle up, Buttercup, because there's a lot that happens in that Saturn return. And then as far as Uranus goes, he's in Gemini. And that shift happened April 25th of 2026 and will go all the way through August 3rd, 2032. That's a 7-year cycle in one sign. Okay, so also because of retrogrades, there was a little July through November 2025 preview of Uranus and Gemini, and then at the end of this cycle, we will see December 2032 through May of 2033. There will be another little retrograde jaunt with Uranus in Gemini, and then he will be up, and away. So collectively, just knowing that Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus have changed signs, this really means we've entered an era that rewards decisiveness. It rewards experimentation, courage, speed, adaptability. That's a big one. And people who are willing to build the plane while also flying it. Now, this isn't the easiest thing to do, right? But I will tell you personally that I've essentially created my entire life around this notion of building the plane while flying it. It's very true for drunk astrology. And so let me be the first to tell you that things don't just work out, they actually work out even better than you think they will. When you embrace this idea of like, I have this creative spark, I don't exactly understand it. I don't exactly know what it is, but I'm going to be willing to mold it and craft it while I execute it, right? So whatever makes sense in the moment, I'm just going to move with that and not let it be like this thing that's like stuck in my head. Because I will tell you that I had the idea for drunk astrology back in 2017, and I did the Virgo thing, and I overthought it for a year. I did not start drunk astrology until July 23rd, 2018, and I had the idea back in May of 2017. So that goes to tell you, like, and I will say this, we were in a different time then. Saturn I can't speak on, but off the top of my head, but Uranus, there was a lot of earth and water in the sky, and earth and water takes its time. It has to embody it. It's got to integrate slowly. And I myself, I'm very earth dominant in my birth chart. So of course it was a different time because the energies were different. And now that's not the case. Now it's like creative spark, move on that shit. Okay. So first, let's just talk about the role that each of these planets play in astrology and the energy they encourage while occupying Aries and Gemini. So we're going to start with who I call the Astro Daddy. Okay, we're going to start with Saturn. Now, Saturn, in essence, in your birth chart and just as an influence in astrology, is really asking, are you serious or not? That is ultimately what Saturn is asking you. Are you going to get real or not? Are you going to be serious or not? Are you going to take responsibility or not? That's his role. So in astrology, Saturn simply rules notions of discipline, responsibility, mastery through time, structure, long-term commitments, consequences, and maturity. Now, when you combine Aries with Saturn, now you're getting themes of taking disciplined action, courage, like repetition being like an act of courage, doing something over and over, even if it's uncomfortable, but in the name of an intention to grow and expand. Leadership, of course, trusting yourself, huge, huge, huge. Learning by doing, not just like, again, this whole notion of like theoreticals and hypothetical situations. Like, no, Saturn in Aries needs the execution. He will learn confidence. He will gain confidence through action, not by like thinking about action. Saturn in Aries is also themes of taking initiative, being bold, being assertive, and like I just said, developing confidence through action. Now, the shadow expression, meaning like the low vibration of Saturn in Aries, a fear of failure, a fear of starting altogether, probably because like you're afraid to fail. Hesitation, waiting for permission. You don't need permission from anybody but you. Like to move on a dream, to move on a goal, you're the permission slip, right? And then, of course, burnout. Burnout's a big one, and especially in 2026, we're in the year of the fire horse. That is something that is also kind of like a fine print warning label on the energy of 2026 alone, is that like burnout, be careful, rest and recovery are a big part of the other side of all this Aries energy. So historically speaking, the last time Saturn was in Aries was 1996 through 1999. And so, these themes of, being courageous, taking accountability and responsibility for yourself and your actions, setting and honoring boundaries, it would be interesting for you to just kind of explore where were you during 96 to 99. Well, for me, it was kind of funny to think about this because I was in middle school and I was such hot shit in middle school. I mean, you couldn't tell me nothing, but I was also getting bullied left and right. And somehow, like, I don't know if this is like what my brain has done to just like preserve like, like survival or not, but like somehow I let that all like roll right off of me and just like I kept trucking along because I was romancing girls. I was getting the technology award for being like the fastest typer. I can't remember if it was the fastest typer in school or in my grade, but I remember getting that award feeling like, oh, you can't tell me nothing. I also remember winning everyone over in the talent show. I remember that I was I believe I ran for class president, but I actually ended up doing class secretary, which is very Virgo of me. But I had a whole political campaign, like you could not tell me nothing. I'm telling you, I was in everything. And like I remember doing the talent show, Sonny and Cher, one year. I was the love interest in a Shania Twain lip sync show. one year for, oh gosh, what's the song? Come on, Graham. Not Any Man of Mine. Honey, I'm Home. Honey, I'm home and I've had a bad day. Tore me a cold one and oh, yep, I was the guy. I was the love interest. Won everyone over. I also joined the choir and I really began my love affair with performing in middle school. Like that, those were the formative years of like, oh my gosh, because I also remember competing as a singer. Pre-puberty, I was like a first tenor. So, you know, when I looked back, I was like, wow, I really was fearless. Like this, one of the best Taylor Swift albums. But 96 to 99, I was raw AF and like totally fearless. So I really saw like, wow, confidence is built not before you take action. It's actually built when you take action, right? Like you do it. Like I remember being so nervous about like my speeches for my political campaign as class president. I'm pretty sure I went for president and then like became the secretary. But I remember being so scared and like, oh my God, I don't know. Like, what am I going to do? And what am I going to say? And I totally had something about the vending machine. But I, in essence, was just looking back of like, yeah, I had my hand in everything. And I didn't second guess anything. I was like, yep, I'm going to join choir. I don't know if I can sing or not. I'm just going to join choir. And then eventually competed. So Saturn in Aries for the next 2.5 years, very much your invitation to like take action first and then build as you go. Now, on the other side, we got to talk about Neptune. Now, Neptune really just begs the question in astrology. In astrology and its role in your birth chart is like, what's your dream here? And Neptune in Aries is like, and what dream are you willing to fight for? So as a planet, this influence entails spirituality, imagination, of course, my favorite word, my favorite thing ever, manifestation, dreams, intuition, a little illusion and delusion, escapism, and creativity. Now, with Neptune in Aries, we're specifically taking on themes of visionary leadership, identity reinvention, because that's, yeah, for sure, fighting for your ideals, taking inspired action, really being like making bold, courageous moves that are fueled by a deep sense of purpose, and literally just fighting for your dreams, taking the necessary steps and going so big that you actually think you're crazy. Because the shadow side of Neptune is going to be being delusional, being impulsively like rose-colored glasses, right? Like kind of like getting that intuitive hunch that something or someone ain't right, but you want what you want when you want it and you just go for it. Like that kind of like impulsive fantasy life could very much be a shadow expression of Neptune and Aries. The hero complex in relationships, like, yeah, watch out for that. Like, you're not necessarily meant to save everyone. So, like, you know, keep that in check. And also confusing unintentional movement for making progress, meaning like you're doing things or like you're at a job, but like it doesn't necessarily like lead you any step closer to like your actual dreams, right? So there's that like confusion, that fog that can come with Neptune going like, well, I am in motion, I am moving, but if it's not tied to something that is purpose-filled, then we start getting into that shadow expression. And a little history lesson for the last time Neptune was in Aries. We go way back in time, baby. We go all the way to April 13th, 1861 through February 14th, 1875. So you want to talk about fighting for a dream and a vision. I mean, this was the American Civil War. This was also the epitome of defining independence because slavery got abolished during this time. And so, you know, you just think back on all of the other things, like, I'm no historian, so I'm not going to pretend like I am. But like those two things alone as themes were like, wow, yeah, like those metaphors alone, like the American Civil War and then abolishing slavery, very much like, what dream, what vision are you willing to fight for? Well, we're there. And so with Saturn and Neptune both in Aries, Neptune is showing you a vision. He's really handing it to you. And, maybe he's delivering it through your dreams. He's delivering it while you're in the shower. He's delivering it in an altered state, right? Like if you do breath work, like you'll be familiar with that, like, kind of like fifth dimension travel, past life regressions. Doing all of that spiritual work. Neptune will deliver your vision mostly through some kind of subconscious state, or in a meditation, in a dream, in an intuitive nudge. But then Saturn, because he's also in Aries, is then going, now what are you going to do to build it, right? Like, are you going to get serious about it? Because Neptune don't play. Saturn definitely don't play, but their energy and influences are different, right? Neptune is the lofty vision. It's the goal. It's the dream. It's the manifestation. And Saturn is like, and now put structure to it. Build it, or commit to not, basically like go hard or go home. It's kind of Saturn's ultimate, role here. But remember, it's coming from a place of love. I call Saturn the astro dad because he does get a bad rep in astrology and with how some astrologers break down your chart and like the planets in your chart and your house placements. And I genuinely believe that astrology is here to support you and your goals, and you're becoming the highest version of yourself. So Saturn can be that like disciplinarian planet, but he's also like, hey, you don't have to do this alone. You can pull in mentorship. You can pull in a coach. You can pull in someone to like support you, to fill in the blanks, to like never stop at like, well, I don't know where to start, or I don't know what to do. Saturn goes, well, then hire someone who does. Right? So it's all love with Saturn and Neptune in Aries, but like Neptune is like, all right, we got to get in touch with like our intuitive side, our spiritual side, to like really understand the vision. And then Saturn goes, now, great, I'm glad you locked that in. Now let's get to work. Now, in the other side of the planets, we've got Uranus in Gemini. So Uranus in astrology is all about disruption. It's about innovation. It is awakening. And like, this is what I like absolutely love about Uranus, because in your chart, wherever Uranus lives, and of course like the sign that it's in, this is where you're going to continue to have big aha moments throughout your entire life. And there's a few astrologers that call Uranus like the gay planet. Which I really love. So like if you have an influential Uranus in your chart, Uranus on your ascendant, my Uranus is in the 4th house. So it's like, oh yeah, the foundation of who I am was, completely radical compared to like my Southern upbringing. Like I started off dating women, and then, I moved to LA in 2005. And then in my first year, I had my first experience with a man and was like, wait a minute. This feels different. So I think it's really, really funny. And I continue to have these like innovative or radical kind of, or maybe not even radical, but like, what am I trying to say? Like, kind of like different eras of how I understand my heart, understand how I love and who I love. And it's been very, very interesting. And so I love that notion of Uranus being an awakening, because in your chart you will continue to have these awakenings wherever he is in your chart and in the way the flavor of the sign he's in. Uranus is also rebellion, technology, sudden changes. I have an oracle card in the deck I use with clients. That's the volcano card. Uranus is very much like where there's earthquakes, where there's volcanoes, kind of like where there's volatility of some kind. And then Gemini is all about communication, and it's media, it's learning, it's exchanging ideas and information, it's networking, it is movement, activation, and adaptability. That's a big theme here when we put all three of these together. So Uranus in Gemini is just like radical new ways of communicating, radical new ways of consuming media, methods of learning shifting, changes in how we all do business, and also like what business looks like in the AI generation. We're looking at like EV vehicles versus hybrid, like our modes of transportation. Like those are definitely going to be advancing in this next era. The AI warfare, right? Like I see it on my page all the time. AI generated music versus real musicians. And like the people who are like hardcore against AI with music, like versus the other side where it's like, can you tell the difference, right? I mean, and sometimes I can't tell the difference. I'm literally like, how am I supposed to know that this was AI? Like, I had no clue. But I also have a history of, working with musicians and live music and everything. So, like, I get where they're coming from. But, like, when you don't have that trained ear, like, oh, shit, like, what are you going to do? Ways to connect with other humans. So one of my kind of curiosities about Uranus and Gemini for the next 7 years is like, will the gap between in real life connection and community versus virtual connection, will this gap get bigger? Or in another way, does culture begin to form movements that are totally analog or totally in real life and absolutely anti-computer? Now, I know just because I have young nieces and I have a young godson that there are already little whispers of like no phones allowed at dinner. Like if my niece and all her friends, and they're like 14, 15, 16, if they all go out, like there's already like, okay, no one's allowed. Like we can take a picture and then everyone will send it to the group chat and then like that's it, because they want to be present. So, but then, then I can look at my godson and go like, oh my gosh, well, my godson like has a whole community built around his Oculus, so like there is this like gap that's here. It's not forming, it's here. But now my curiosity is like, over the next 7 years, what's this going to look like? Uranus in Gemini is also new business models, unconventional careers, rapid information exchange. I mean, we're seeing that with like every single day, news headlines, like it's going to get more rapid. Constant pivot, learning new skills quickly, rebranding, new identity shifts happening quickly. The next wave of the internet evolution. I mean, I've seen something that was talking about AI robots made to look and feel human. Like, what's that about? And so to give a little history lesson here, the last time Uranus was in Gemini was 1941 to 1949. So we're looking at World War II, the explosion of communication and technological advance, specifically the radio, and how radio and wartime messaging were really heavily shaping cultures, opinions, and political views. And we can compare that to like where we are with social media now, right? Like an algorithm is, kind of curating what we see. So like we're never really getting like a full broad understanding of like all sides, and, there's a whole, just polarization that's happened, and information is now coming to us via social media in addition to the news and, the more like traditional formats of how we used to, like back in 1941 to 1949, get all of our information. And so one thing that I want you to know about Uranus and Gemini is the shadow expression, because that looks like overthinking shit to oblivion, never taking action because you're stuck in hypothetical scenarios, or you're playing devil's advocate ad nauseum. So you absolutely just end up doing nothing innovative or anything different, or you simply just never change your perspective on, let's just go to basics, like your own life and where it's headed, what you want for your life. It's just like, to kind of give you a metaphor, the shadow side of Uranus and Gemini is basically having just an endless amount of open tabs in your mind, on your phone, on your computer, and zero action, no collaboration, no fresh perspective. It is age old, as is, never to be changed. That right there that's where I said in the beginning that indecision is actually dangerous here. Uranus's role is to break the status quo, to break traditional molds, which is a very interesting play here because Saturn rules more of like the tradition and Uranus breaks tradition. He disrupts the status quo in the name of progress. Okay, so we have both of those energies at play with each other. So the main thing that I want you to know is that decisiveness, just being decisive, will make you one of the most successful people in this new era. These planets, Uranus and Gemini, Saturn, Neptune, and Aries, they move fast. And combined, they are ultimately asking you, are you going to sit there and just think about your life? Think about your goals, think about your dreams, or are you going to really hop in the driver's seat and start directing your life in the direction that you actually want it to go? So no more. In this new era, moving on for the rest of 2026 and over the next several years, no more waiting for certainty. Be willing to learn and build at the same time. You're going to have to iterate quickly. You're going to have to make fast decisions. You're going to trust I gotta like bold this one. Trust your first instinct more often, just period. Trust your first instinct more often. That is a key differentiator from the people that will succeed the most in this next era. Stop endlessly researching forever. Be willing to take messy action. Be willing to let that messy action create momentum. That's how you create momentum, right? Just kind of going I don't really know where this is going, but I know the next step I need to take is this. Be a shapeshifter. Becoming adaptable, key component to succeeding in this new energy. And strengthen your ability to pivot, because this is an era where you're going to have to embrace fast-paced change and implement new ideas relatively quickly. And ultimately, what I want to encourage you to do with this energy is to try everything. Get curious. Gemini is the energy of curiosity and Aries is the energy of action. Take curious action and just watch. Just watch what unfolds for you when you do. Because the people who win in this era are going to be willing to look a little dumb. They're going to be willing to look dumb for 5 minutes while they're learning something new, and then bam, watch how they take off. And so I want you to try everything when it comes to your career. I want you to try everything and get curious about your relationships, about your creativity, your self-expression, changing careers, your relationship to being visible, to being seen, to being acknowledged as the leader of your own life in the driver's seat. I want you to really apply this everywhere. But I do want you to have more of an understanding of where Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus are playing in your chart based on your sun sign. So I'm going to do a quick round of application. So I want you to listen to your sun sign. And if you are familiar with your rising sign, you can absolutely listen for that too. But all the planets are revolving around the sun. So we prioritize the sun because it's the essence of who you are. It is the source of all vitality and life in your chart. So without further ado, let's just go Aries through Pisces. Let's freaking go. Aries, Saturn and Neptune are in your first house, and Uranus is in your third house. This is like identity reinvention. The first house is your appearance. It's how you're perceived by the outside world, how you present yourself. And it's also strategy for what you want this next chapter of your life to look like, what you want it to be. So there's no need to wait for permission, right? This is your opportunity to become the leader of your own life. And Uranus in your third house, share your ideas, brainstorm, travel with your best friends, travel with your family. Found family counts too here. Forge new relationships, get involved in your local environment. Huge, huge opportunities are close to home for the Aries. Taurus, now this is a bit of a soft girl era for you, Taurus, because Saturn and Neptune are in your 12th house of endings, of forgiveness, of closure, of spirituality, kind of like where things go to dissolve, right? So Saturn and Neptune really have a role in your inner world changing, and you becoming more serious about your spirituality, about putting faith in practice. There's one thing to say oh, I go to church, or I meditate, I pray, but it's another thing to when when you're facing difficulty, actually putting that faith that's been more of an intellectual experience into actual practice. I definitely want you to build a strong intuitive center, because you're tasked here with really trusting your intuitive nudges, and stop clinging to old patterns of behavior, old cycles, the old cycles, and kind of anywhere where you're tight gripping. This new era is going to require you to unclench your fist. Uranus, though, is riding in your second house of work and earned income, and your sense of worth, personal worth, your value at work and in interpersonal relationships. So really, Taurus is your one to kind of watch out for innovative new businesses, creating new pathways to earn money and income. You're one to watch. Now, Geminis, Saturn and Neptune are in your 11th house of communities, humanitarianism, global networks and connection, technology. The Geminis are really going to be inventing some cool shit in this new era. The 11th house is also your hopes, dreams, and manifestations. So this is a massive reinvention era for you, and a great time to experiment with your identity and the labels that you go by. Because Uranus, the planet of disruption and radicalness, is in your first house of self, of expression, and of course, your strategy for moving ahead. You are probably, Gemini, going to surprise yourself with the moves you make in this new era. But above all, your voice matters. So share your ideas, brainstorm with others, let relationships and kind of like your outer personal relationships help you gain ideas about what you want the future to look like for yourself. Cancers, we've got quite a big energy here. We're going to see a lot of Cancers really up-leveling their careers because Saturn and Neptune are in their 10th house. And when you have this influence in your 10th house of career and your trajectory, your kind of like your reputation when it comes to the work you do and the legacy you're building, whether that's the legacy at home, the legacy at work, the legacy with your most important relationships. There's a real opportunity to build something very structural, very sound here. So taking professional risks, Cancer, let Neptune give you the vision, and then Saturn will help you build it. And Uranus is actually in your 12th house. So there's this almost like you're going on a 7-year forgiveness tour, apology tour, because Uranus is coming to disrupt your house of spirituality, the house of repeated patterns and cycles, and really encouraging you to move differently, move outside of your norm. And let faith really lead the way. Uranus will send so much electroshock therapy your way via your dreams, via your shower, long showers when you're not thinking and then the best idea comes through. So just you wait. Your best ideas are going to come when you least expect it. Leos, Saturn and Neptune are riding in your 9th house of travel, of vision, of expansion, of growth, of education, of philosophy. So expanding your worldview is absolutely a big theme for the Leos. Teaching, traveling, publishing something, learning new languages, learning new skills. This is definitely not an era where you want to play small, okay? Neptune's going to give you the big dream, the big idea, and Saturn is going to encourage you to build it. Don't play small, okay? Uranus is riding in your 11th house, so there's going to be a lot of innovation, a lot of disruption even on the friend front, on kind of your global expansion. I'm going to guess that your Leos are really going to be the unpredictable humanitarians. They're going to step into more roles, leadership roles that are aligned with their ultimate dreams and their values and their wishes and their manifestations. So you got to be willing to make some noise, Leo, and there's no one better than you to do it. Virgos, heyo, that includes me. Saturn and Neptune are in your 8th house of sex, death, and taxes, and intimacy, and money, investing. So there's a big, deep transformation happening around sex, around intimacy, also around who you trust, and also what you do with the money you make. So no need to be micromanagey here. This is a deeply spiritual time, to really just invest deeper into your spiritual practices. Uranus is disrupting your 10th house. So I predict that a lot of the Virgos are actually going to step forward and become major innovators in their industries. I definitely aim to do that with Drunk Astrology, becoming seen as an innovator in their space. So, Virgos, don't play small here. Let your foundation with Saturn in Aries be a deep trust in yourself and in your work and your ability, and let Uranus come through and propel you forward and give you these big ideas, these new ways of thinking about places or notions in your industry, and shake shit up. Libra, let's keep our eye on Beyonce. Let's see what she does with this. Libras, you've got Saturn and Neptune in your seventh house of relationships and partnerships. So relationships are radically shifting. This is definitely a time where you're going to want to choose your partnerships decisively with intention. You know, the indecision can really get the Libras it can get the best of you. So we don't want to like play the maybe game forever. Saturn's going to want you to get real. All right. So like dream up that ideal love, dream up that ideal marriage. Even if you've been married for a long time, Libra, like what does the next phase of your marriage, of your relationships, what do you want that to look like? Let Saturn help you build it. Perhaps therapy will be supportive. Perhaps having a coach, having a mentor, like someone there to like a strong anchor to help you move through relationships and partnerships soundly with intention and consistency. Uranus is disrupting things in the ninth house. So, you're also someone who should like go big or go home. Let your innovative ideas be something that you publish, something that you share, something that you teach. Maybe you are inspired to learn something new. Like by all means, like let this electroshock of inspiration like move through you. Don't be scared of your own ideas. Like let them come through, capture them, and get moving. Scorpios, Saturn and Neptune are in your sixth house of day-to-day work. So your working routines are getting kind of reinvented in a way. New technologies, new systems will help you thrive, but you've got to be willing to learn them. You've got to be willing to bring in a coach, a mentor, a technician, an assistant, someone to like really help you implement these things. Burnout ain't sexy, Scorpio, so don't get stuck in that trap. Uranus is disrupting things in the eighth house for you, so this is the witchy house. This is the sex, death, and taxes. So like, hey, whoever had any complaints about like volcanic eruptions on the intimacy front? Am I right? So this can be like kind of a hot and cold 7-year cycle, Scorpios. But I mean, when it's hot, it's hot. And also like creating like innovative ways for you to invest your money, invest your time, and invest your resources. Sagittarius, Saturn and Neptune are riding in your fifth house of love, of creativity, of drama, but it can be like the good kind, like if you're an actor or a performer of any kind. Sages are going to definitely have like some really creative output with Saturn and Neptune in their fifth house. So a creative renaissance is upon you, Sag. Get ready for visibility, for romance, for artistry. Create just for creativity's sake, right? You don't have to feel ready. You just like get the idea and move on it. Uranus is in your seventh house of relationships and partnerships. So get ready for some like wild, like you're going to be attracting some like wild people into your life, or people that you didn't necessarily see coming, or ways of connecting that you weren't anticipating. But hey, sounds exciting to me. And if anyone's going to be down for the ride, it's going to be you. Capricorns, this is actually big for you because Saturn is your ruling planet. So the fact that he has changed signs is a big freaking deal. And co-piloting with Neptune and Aries, that means your home and family foundations are changing. In the fourth house, Saturn and Neptune want to establish a really solid sense of foundation under you, at home, in your bank account. Neptune wants you to dream big here, but the idea is to really build a life that actually reflects who you are right now in this season. Now, interestingly enough, I think I smell Uranus in your sixth house for the next 7 years, really shaking up what your day-to-day work looks like. I think you are the sign to look out for when it comes to what you consider work, what you end up wanting to be known for. I think you're even going to surprise yourself when it comes to what day-to-day work looks like for you over these next 7 years. I will say, too, the sixth house is a health and wellness house. So you could have some highs and some lows when it comes to health and wellness. The ultimate thing that you want to do is to really prioritize routines and habits that are healthy, that align with your optimal health and wellness, whatever that looks like for you, and move accordingly. Okay, so just keep that in the back of your mind. Your ruling planet wants you to really level up. Home, family, connection to let's just say VIP, motherly type figures. Might be through some challenge, but that is all right. Right? Like the idea is to really level up at home and that sense of security on the financial front and on the emotional front. So, of course, calling in some mentors or therapists, counselors, coaches, etc., to really help you really up-level your emotional well-being, primo for you. Now, Aquarius. Now, your voice has you've got ideas that are worthy of public consumption. You've got Saturn and Neptune riding in your third house of communication, your voice, exchanging ideas, group thinks, brainstorming, local events and community activation. So there's a lot of magic that's happening close to home with you. Now, Saturn in the third house can also bring a little bit of challenge to your local, we can play around with your neighbors. We can play around with local politics and things. So there's a need to be really present in your local environment, your local communities. Also exploring other neighborhoods in wherever you live, like getting out, in road trip distance, will prove to be inspirational with Neptune and Aries co-piloting with Saturn, which wants to level up your connections close to home. Also wants to up-level your willingness and your ability, your choice to share your ideas and to bounce them off of other people rather than keep them locked up in a mental prison. We don't want that. And we also see opportunities here to establish boundaries with family and found family, in addition to really kind of up-leveling your inner circle. You might find that you move people that were kind of on the outside, kind of loose acquaintances, become closer, and people that you imagined always being on the inner circle might actually be moved out. Doesn't mean you have to get rid of them. It just means that there's some reprioritization happening close to home. Now, Uranus, on the other hand, is shaking things up in your fifth house of love, romance, creativity, self-expression, and your needs. Here's the thing about the fifth house. It's this creation energy. So it doesn't mean you overnight become an artist if you don't identify yourself as an artist or performer. But it's more like a volcanic eruption happening with your best ideas or the life that you want to create for yourself. And this is where, because Uranus is your ruling planet, so this is where innovation lives. This is where your natural rebellious spirit wants to shake things up, and it's all about visibility. So you've got this shakeup in the visible zone, and you've got this grounding happening in your ideas and your voice zone. So no more over editing yourself or over criticizing ideas or putting your ideas down. This cycle is really meant for you to be seen, your ideas to be heard, and for you to speak, for you to teach, for you to share and eliminate any kind of like self-stop that you may have been doing to yourself for X amount of years, right? You're the revolutionary here over these next 7 years, right? So you've got you've got these ideas that can really shake the status quo. And now it's not just about you having these ideas, it's actually about you presenting them, sharing them, and allowing them to be consumed. And last but not least, we have our Pisces. Now, if there is anyone that's going to be leveling up the amount of money they can make, Pisces, it's you. You've got Saturn and Neptune in Aries riding in your second house of work and earned income. So there could be a little cost of entry with Saturn and Neptune here. You might have to shift what you do or how you do what you do. Saturn will identify where there's been some challenges, where there needs to be a change, where there needs to be an up level, where you yourself might actually need outside support to help level you up in some way. So depending on what you do, that can look very, very different. For some Pisces, that might be like getting an assistant. Other Pisces, it might be like walking away from the job they've had forever and then like starting their own business, right? Building from the ground up. Neptune and Aries, though, is going to want that inspired action. Neptune is your ruling planet. So this has so much to do about like, what are you inspired to do? What are you inspired to make? What are those like seemingly lofty dreams and goals that float around in your ethereal space? And like, how can you now generate income with those ideas, right? So with Pisces, there's probably a little bit of an acceptance needed for what's been working, but actually like what's not working now though, right? Like, what has it been? What is it now? And what do you want it to look like in the future? Now, on the other side, we've got Uranus, we've got the revolutionary, we've got the innovator, riding in your fourth house of home, family, security, which is financial security and emotional security. So you're going to be one of those moody bitches, okay, over the next 7 years. You're going to have really high highs and then like really low lows on the emotional front, right? The fourth house is your heart. It's your feeling of safety and security. And Uranus is going like, hey, this is a little pay to play here, right? Like, so if you really want to like innovate something or take like a new professional endeavor, right? A new career route or some sort of switch on the way that you earn money. Well, Uranus can come in like hot to trot, like magnet and like bring in buku dollars. But then at the same time, there can also be really low valleys. So there will be a need to like systematize, really bring some kind of, like you having some kind of financial advisor, you having some kind of, you want some stability when it comes to your financial security. Now, you might be someone who like comes into a lot of money and then you decide like, you know what, I'm going to buy something. I'm going to buy my first piece of property, or I'm going to buy another property. Whatever your situation is, it'll be unique to you. But I highly encourage you to like think long term before making any kind of erratic financial decisions. However, there is some real opportunity with Uranus in your fourth house to kind of like reinvent what home means to you, what it looks like to you, what it feels like to you. I can almost imagine that some Pisces will like get that property, right? And then they want to make it their own. And so instead of having like the traditional like kitchen and dining room, like I can see Pisces with Uranus in the fourth house going like, like I'm not No, like this is actually going to be like my aquarium room. Right? So there's some actually like really cool things that Pisces can do, especially if there's a Pisces interior designers out there. This is where you could come in like a seasoned pro and really reinvent what interior design styles look like the combinations of boho, traditional, and industrial, right? Like, what does that look like, and how is that executed in a way that only you could as a very creative Pisces? So there's definitely money and self-worth transformation happening with Saturn and Neptune in your second house. Definitely a time where you don't want to be undervaluing what comes naturally to you. Put those gifts in motion. So that's it. That's it for all 12 signs. And ultimately, what I want you to take away from this, regardless of what your sun sign or rising or moon sign is, we are not in times anymore, according to astrology, where you can afford to sit on the sidelines of your own life. Saturn in Aries for the next 2.5 years is going to want you to be courageously committed to up-level wherever he's falling in your chart. Neptune in Aries is going to want you to take inspired action, but it's directly connected to what actually inspires you and what motivates you, what dreams keep you up at night. And then Uranus and Gemini definitely wants you to be adaptable, wants you to be communicative, wants you to be flexible, but what it also shares with Saturn and Neptune and Aries is that it wants you in motion. So the good news is you don't have to have your entire life or your business or your relationships all the way figured out. But what this energy is saying, you do have to become an active participant in the version of your life that you say you want. And that is what I want you to take away, number one, from this entire episode. So obviously, before we go, I would be remiss if I didn't say that what we discussed about today is the universal energy and how it connects to your sign in a very broad stroke kind of way. The most comprehensive and holistic way to understand how this is playing out in your life and the opportunities that are created specifically for you with Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus is looking at your birth chart and really understanding on a deep level how to activate Saturn, how to activate Neptune, how to activate Uranus based on where those planets live in your chart, one, but two, where they're actually sitting in your chart right now. So this is a great opportunity for us to work together and to look at where these energies are taking place in your birth chart, aka your life. And so if you would like to book a one-on-one birth chart reading with me, I invite you to do so with a quickness. There is a link in the show notes for us to work together. Go click it, go get your reading on the books, and let's freaking go. We've got things to innovate, and we've got things to up-level. Point blank and period. Until next time, I'll see you soon. If this episode hit for you, don't keep it to yourself. Send it to a friend, drop it in the group chat, or share it to your Instagram stories and tag me so I can hype you up. And if you're ready to tap into what's going on for you right now, I got you. There is a free oracle card reading waiting for you in the show notes. It'll give you insight into the energy and opportunity around you right now, help you navigate any challenges, and clarify your next best move so you can start making decisions with confidence today. And if you're sitting there thinking, I don't want to just listen, I want to actually apply astrology to my life. Well, that's exactly what I help my clients do in the Daily Dose of Stars Energy Report, birth chart readings, my Moon Phase Manifestor program, and my one-on-one coaching containers. All the details are linked in the show notes below. And if you've got a question that you want me to answer here on the podcast, just tap that text me link in the show notes and send it my way. I might just answer it in a future episode. Wink, wink. Until next time, trust yourself and manifest big.